Hi everyone, it's Amy Kessel, and I'm back this week with Rachelle Mee-Chapman. Hi Rachelle,
Hello. Hi.
so good to have you with us.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna have we're gonna have a little chat about all things women and retreating and self-care. Right up your alley.
Yes, definitely.
So let's just dive in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're here to do in the world?
I'm a life coach and a gatherer of community at my site, Magpie Girl. And I used to be an ordained minister, and I now, work in more eclectic circles. And what I specialize in is helping people create right fit spiritual practices, or you can call them soul care practices, for yourself and your family. We try to look at things so that they're rooted in your history and respectful of your heritage, but authentic to who you are right now, and then creative and flexible enough to grow with you, because we're always evolving, So creative and flexible enough to grow with you as you grow and change through your life.
Mm. So you said soul care. So what if I bristle at the thought of spirituality or of religion in a sort of a religious, like capital R religious sense?
Right. Well, the people that I work with, some of them are sort of coming out of church and they're post-church, and the word we play with sometimes is religious-ish.
Nice.
People miss a lot of times ritual,
Yeah.
miss having their seasons kind of anchored in, whatever high holy days that they grew up with. But bristle at some of the more restrictive parts of faith and religion. So for some people, I talk about, well, let's be religious-ish. And with other people, that's not part of their background, or it was, and they don't want it anymore. Maybe they self-identify as spiritual but not religious. Sometimes we'll work with that language. Or sometimes it's really more in the realm of self-care. To me, self-care and soul-care are totally integrated, right?
How so? Tell me more about that.
Well, I mean, we can't separate mind, body, spirit, right? We can't be like, I'm just going to take care of my physical self and ignore my soul or my spirit or my energy, whatever language you use to talk about that sort of mysterious and nebulous part of our being.
Right.
And, also our minds are engaged with all three of those things. So sometimes we try to ferret those out, or we only feel comfortable with one of those, so we work only in that field. And what I try to do with my clients is listen to their story and hear, like, where in their care of their self, their whole self, mind, body, spirit, where are they really like firing on all pistons and got that part covered, and where are they experiencing a hunger? Maybe one aspect of that trinity isn't getting taken care of very well.
Oh, I love that. So they've got a hunger in one of the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a lot of times with women, especially mothers, they're so attentive to the needs of others that all three are just like starving, right? Because there's so much focus on like raising other humans, or even just as women in general, like we're enculturated to take care of everybody else. And so sometimes like it's just total systems meltdown because nothing's being adequately nurtured, and there aren't a lot of societal or even familial permissions to take care of ourselves.
Yes. Yes. So what about that permission piece? What about women? Do you find that women are more apt to give themselves permission if they're in a group setting? Like if there are other women who are saying, hey, I need this?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that happens when women gather together in groups is that, first of all, you see that you're not alone in needing care, and that it's not like you're broken or something or malfunctioning. Everybody needs to take care of themselves, men and women. And so you see other women bear witness to you that these needs are real and valid, and that they can in fact be fed. And then you kind of get to stop worrying alone. Like the isolation of being on your own causes the worry machine to just really get revving. And when you're with others, you can more readily find solutions. You don't feel so alone. You can more readily find solutions from the pool of wisdom that's gathered.
Yeah.
And then you can make a plan of action
Yeah.
of what self-care or soul care needs to look for you right now. It's always evolving, but and it's just like a think tank, like it's this beautiful, but it's not so brain oriented, mind oriented. It's more balanced when a group of women are together about what we might do to thrive.
Yeah. So I know that you're doing something soon called Gather, which is
Yes.
bringing women together. And it's just like what you've just said is that. So can you spell it out for people? Like what's going to happen there and what are the women going to walk away with at the end?
So I have an annual event called Soul Sisters, which features a lot of teachers, and it's a bigger group. And I wanted to do something in between that annual event for women to still be able to gather. So Gather is smaller. It's only 20 seats. And I really believe in collaborative work, so I almost always work with other teachers. So I've partnered with a couple of other women, including Rachelle Cole, who teaches a course called The Well-Fed Woman, about nurturing all the aspects of ourselves, and Andrea Ray, who is going to teach us very physical things like self-shiatsu, like not just in our brains or in our emotions, but our actual body, healing our own bodies with our body. So it's a day-long workshop in Seattle on May 10th with these teachers in a small group setting. And then we're having a party that evening, sort of like a house concert, with this beautiful musician named Naomi Wachira from Kenya, who's just so embodied when she plays and sings. That is like this very good witness for us to see and be inspired by. And in my practice, art always takes very center stage in the self-discovery, healing, inspiring process. So it'll be an art-based party with the music and just to celebrate what we've learned together.
And what do you want for the women, or what happens when what's the feedback that you've had? What do they come away with?
I think the thing that strikes me most in particular about working in the area of body compassion is just how we have completely internalized societal messages about women's bodies. Of course, we all know this. But sort of beneath that, we've also internalized messages about being needy, being frail and being needy and being emotional, and had all, like that voice I'm using, like it's a bad thing. When really, like what Rachelle says is, you're not needy, you're starving. Like if you're always serving others, if you're always putting others first, if you don't have any time to retreat and renew, it's not that you're needy and broken and fiddly. It's that you aren't getting the nutrition that you need. So when my belief is, when these teachers are so stellar, that when we leave this event, women will have a better idea of what is it that I'm hungry for, and how do I practically feed it, emotionally, creatively, and yes, physically in regards to food and diet. Like, what am I craving? What do I need? So I think when you get a grip on that, even a beginning grip, it really starts shifting how you stand, how you feel in your skin, how clear you are about your own decisions. I still see the level of debate. Should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know. It just quiets right down and you get much clearer about your decision making. Yeah. So I'm really excited. Like the teachers that I work with, they're not new in town. You know what I mean? they have very utilized materials. And so when you come for a weekend and you invest in these events, it's not like you get a little tidbit like, that was kind of interesting. You get a meal that's going to keep feeding you even after you leave.
Yeah. So 2 things. One, it's such a beautiful parallel to what Hestia is doing. They're doing a Women's Day of Wellness at the end of April 26th, and it's similar, beautiful teachers and a chance to reconnect to what makes us feel radiant. And I think the hope is the same, that women leave there changed. And so it isn't like, checking in with the notes that you took during a lecture and sort of trying to implement, but instead, like you said, they stand different. They consider choices in a different way, that there's a level of calm knowing that sets in.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about, that's great, and thank you for putting it together, and thank you, Hestia, for putting it together. What about retreat or self-care in this essential way when we don't have a place to go? When there isn't an event, when there isn't a retreat center, what about that?
I mean, that's one of the things I like to talk with people about a lot is like simple, doable self-care. I think we like to make it very complex. Mm. Like I have to go to Taos for a week to do yoga or it doesn't count. When in reality, this like steady IV drip of self-care is as important, if not, it's as powerful as a weekend away. So we have to, kind of integrate what we discover about ourselves and our needs, and we do get a chance to retreat into our everyday life. So, like for me, I have a lot of self-care built into my day. I do a simple 10 breath or 10-minute meditation, depending on the morning before I get up. I take a bath almost every single day.
Good for you.
I do little things like I work without the radio on because I really need a lot of silence. I know how much I need to connect externally with friends. So I have a coffee or a lunch almost every week. Someone, not always the same person or anything, but just with someone. And then, I know about myself seasonally too, that in the winter I have to be kinder to myself because dark days in the Northwest, make me tired, and I connect with our animal self, like, oh, right, we are animals. We need to hibernate now, and turn down my expectations about how much I'm going to produce, So I think it's really, I know we just talked about body compassion, but it's really about like soul and spirit compassion as well. Like just not being mean to yourself. And it doesn't have to be costly. Yeah. And you don't have to do all of it all the time. You have like a basket of self-care tools, to draw on. Like maybe you can't get a bath every day, but maybe you can get one once a week. And then maybe other days you can make yourself a really great cup of tea and sit with it, intentionally. And those things can kind of sound like silly and soft, but when they're in that IV drip, they're super nutritional.
I totally agree. The other thing that occurs to me as you're saying that is, as much as the acts themselves, it's there's something about our willingness to have an inner dialogue going that is self-shaming or mean, right? We all have these inner critics. And if we aren't practicing self-care, so, an aspect of self-care is being vigilant or managing our inner critic. Yeah. So when we're on, when our self-care, regime or, our self-care practice is kicked in, we hear that voice, that nasty, snarky one, and we respond. We acknowledge it for what it is. When we're fallen off the self-care wagon a bit, we believe it. And it takes such a toll on us. It really saps and drains and diminishes our joy, our ability to do our thing here.
I think it gets so loud when we don't have any time for self-care, because there are those periods of crisis where you like really don't get much self-care no matter what. Yeah. I think it has so much to do with time and space. You don't have time and space to kind of have that pause between when you hear the inner critic and how you respond to it, then it's a bombardment. Yeah. Inner critic, and you don't have any ease around it to stop and say, oh, I heard you say that, totally. And I got to ask you, is that really true? Kind of counter it. Yeah. So any self-care that like creates space, a pause, is just, sort of training you in a Pavlovian style to take that moment and think like, what did I just hear? Yeah. And is it real? Am I going to receive it, or am I going to say I don't receive that? And when you just go, the chatter just stays in your head.
Yeah, there's no pause place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So the pause, I love the IV drip concept too. That's just, yeah.
Well, I think people, we get in our head like it's sort of this New Year's resolution or this diet model,
Yeah.
of like, I'm going to change everything and create this, full meal deal package, and I'm going to follow it perfectly and be a yogi. And, some people are wired for that kind of spirituality where they have to go deep and consistent and long term, but most of us aren't.
Totally
And
agree.
so having an eclectic approach to your self care is like giving yourself permission to not be valuing the little things. Is just so helpful.
Could not agree more. Mm-hmm. Any last bits that you want to share with our listeners before we sign off?
Well, I was just thinking a little bit about retreat in general. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering sometimes, like I was just thinking about my clients and what are some of the things they might hesitate about around retreat. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things is we can get kind of heavy-handed with what retreat has to be. Mm-hmm. It has to be silent. It has to be a week. It has to be under the care of some fantastic teacher.
Fully organic.
Yes, exactly.
Locally sourced.
And again, like I think your style of retreat has to be right fit for you. Yeah. It has to feed the things that you're hungry for. It has to match your personality. Mm-hmm. So, like for me, retreat. I have a friend who has a home in Bellingham with like a vacation family home, and they let me use it sometimes, And for me, retreat is sleeping when my body wants to sleep, working at a rhythm that, like, I often go to write. Mm-hmm. So writing when I feel like it, and in the biorhythm that works for me, eating simple, wholesome food, and sometimes I'll go with one other person because, like, for me, a group retreat usually isn't what I need, but for others, a big group retreat, the energy of so many souls in the room is what they need. Mm. So I just would say to people, like, if you're thinking about your own self-care, you're thinking about how do I retreat, how do I create that pause space, don't have a crisis of imagination around what that needs to look like. Because the only thing it needs to look like is what feeds you. That's the that you have to address when you're creating these things for yourself.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's basically recognize. Rachel's question is so good. What are you truly hungry for? So in this retreat, what am I truly hungry for? And I love that you said sometimes I'm alone, sometimes I'm with people, sometimes, right, in different seasons it looks different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so, and I think sometimes we get a little bit caught up on, like, what am I hungry for the most? What would be the best? This idea of the best choice?
Yeah.
Just make a choice.
Yes.
Like that hierarchy of what's absolutely best.
Yeah.
It just gets in the way. So, like,
keep it simple.
Just keep it simple.
Totally.
Yeah. You can always change it.
Yes.
Next time you can do something different.
Yeah. Oh, Rachelle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Such a joy to talk with you.
Yeah. Thank you.